Hello and welcome to Your Broken Galaxy. I am Broken, and today I'm answering the question, what if Vader got peg legs instead of robot legs? This one is gonna be a weird one, asked by Dalek907. So, Vader has just had both of his legs and his remaining human arm removed. He is in absolute mental anguish, having committed atrocity after atrocity, was abandoned by his best friend, and his wife is gone. Suffice to say, he's having a bad day. But then he looks up from the horror that his life has become and sees his old friend Sheev Palpatine, and the tiniest glimmer of hope appears in Anakin's heart. But Palpatine, so disgusted with Anakin's failure, turns away and walks back to the ship in anger. The clones grab him, but instead of giving Anakin mechanical legs and arms, Palpatine tells the medical droids to give him peg legs and a hook, and that is exactly what they do. So as Vader is stood up on the operating table, he says, "Where's Padme?" And Palpatine says, "It seems that in your anger you killed her." And Vader uses all of his strength to rip the bindings off the bed he is on and scream, "No!" But as he steps forward, he can't get his balance on the peg legs and ends up falling face first onto the ground. And Palpatine scoffs and says, "I decided to change your name. Instead of Darth Vader, you're now going to be called Darth Failure, so everyone will know how much of a failure you are." Anyway, after a couple days of getting used to his new legs, Anakin appears before the Emperor, and the Emperor starts giving him missions. He does okay, succeeding more than half the time, but he can barely walk without the Force, so he is just using the Force like 100% of the time, just to stay standing. He is always completely exhausted from this and realizes why Yoda used a cane. It's just easier. Anyway, the one thing that Darth Failure can still do fairly well is pilot a starfighter, so he tries to handle most of his problems that way. After almost 2 miserable decades, he ends up capturing Leia, and through a series of events finds himself in a starfighter blasting away at a bunch of rebels, and he takes out a lot of them, but one of them gets away and ends up blowing up the D-Star. He finds out the name of the pilot is Skywalker, and that the planet that he was from was Tatooine, the planet which Vader, Failure, Anakin is also from, and the planet that he was over when he captured Leia and she sent away the plan. So he figures out that Obi-Wan, who brought this punk to the Death Star, knew that Anakin, with an innate sense of hatred for sand, would keep away from the planet, and that's where Obi-Wan looked over Luke. After a couple of years, Darth Failure's only friend, Boba, gets up and tracks down Skywalker, and he goes to Bespin to catch him. As Luke arrives, he draws his lightsaber, and Vader ignites his own saber, steps forward, and immediately his peg leg falls into a slit in the flooring, and his leg falls like all the way down until the stub of his actual leg ends up hitting the metal grate. Luke thinks this is some kind of trap and stays back. So Vader has to awkwardly set his lightsaber down so you can use his one hand to lift himself a bit and get his leg out. After a few seconds, he is free, but he won't take another step forward onto the metal grate flooring. He positions himself near a door that has a normal floor and says, "Obi-Wan never told you the truth." And Luke, who feels a lot of pity for Failure right now, says, "He told me you ended him. However, I don't really see how that's possible given your current condition. Was he the one that did all of this to you?" And Anakin says, "No. I am your father." And Luke, who has not had his hand cut off and found himself totally defeated, is not nearly as emotionally exhausted or concerned about this turn of events, and he says, "Right. Well, I'm going to take you prisoner." And Vader starts throwing things at him like in Empire Strikes Back with the Force, all the computer terminals that are the size of old arcade machines and stuff. But Luke, who isn't tired at all, just deflects him. Anakin has to stop his attack pretty quickly, seeing as how he is already exhausted just from using the Force to stay upright all the time. So Anakin kind of leans back against the wall and starts swinging his saber just hoping to keep Luke at bay. And Luke just effortlessly is blocking every single swing. And he says, hey, can you stop that? And Anakin says, excuse me. Unlimited power. Just like his master does. And Luke is like, yeah, fine, have it your way. And he cuts off Anakin's saber hand and says, now, I didn't want to do that, but Darth Failure says, I'm fine. I'm in so much pain all of the time anyway that the robotic nerve endings specifically designed by Palpatine to register increased pain don't even bother me. And Luke says, so why are you serving this guy? And Anakin says, he promised that he'd save my wife. And Luke says, well, did he? And Failure says, well, no. So, like, okay, Yoda told me about what you did with, the younglings, Luke says. I mean, how many atrocities are you going to do for this guy that straight up manipulates you? He lied to you. He treats you like crap all the time. And Vader says, I never really stopped to think about it. So Luke arrests him. Leia and Lando help them escape. They still have to go on their crazy misadventure to save Han. But while they are doing that, Anakin is telling the Rebel Alliance everything he knows about the Emperor and the Empire. And they start making mad progress in the rebellion. So much so that they remove Vader's peg legs and hook him up to actual robotic limbs because he's gonna start helping them. So him and Luke go to visit Yoda right before Yoda's passing away. And he says, young Skywalker, confront the Emperor you must. And Luke says, wait, are you talking to me or to him? And Yoda says, yes. And then he fades away. So the Sky Boys end up going to Endor and giving themselves up and being brought before the Emperor. And he says, Lord Failure, what is the meaning of this? And of course, at this point, Annie and Luke have had their sabers taken away by Palpatine. So Anakin says, we're here to defeat you. And the Emperor looks at Luke and says, strike down your father and join me, young Skywalker. And Luke says, I'll never join you. So the Emperor says, then you'll die. And he zaps them both with electricity, and they do. But then Han and Leia win on Endor, and Wedge and Lando blow up the Death Star, and the Emperor dies anyway. Like, seriously, in the original movie, if Luke hadn't been there, the Rebels still would have won. Why is no one talking about this? Well, that is my video for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you would like to support the channel, you can check my Patreon link in the description below, or of course, you could go ahead and become a channel member here on YouTube. But really, what's probably easiest is, especially if this is the first video of mine you've ever seen, if you just look at my video page and click on anything else that you think sounds funny, or if you tell your friends about this. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and all that garbage.